This is cool.
I think it's cool. I
Did you take a class or you just ordered all this stuff?
no, there's the old class of Google and YouTube.
Nice.
I learn a lot of stuff on YouTube now.
Nice.
Hey everybody, you're listening to the Many Worlds Tavern podcast. My name is Chris Porto. I am with Many Worlds Tavern. We sell coffee for game night. And today we got a little bored talking to Andrew last week, so we are going to be talking to Gena Scurry. She's a game designer. She recently came out with a new game called Over Coffee, and I'm super excited to talk to her and pick her brain a little bit. So thanks for coming, Gena.
Oh, thank you, Chris, for inviting me.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess if you could just maybe a little bit about yourself and the new game.
Well, God, I don't know where to start there. Okay, so I originally started a business training adults to speak Spanish, and my intention was to leave them speaking to anyone, anytime, anywhere, and learning from every opportunity. And one of the things I really loved about that particular business was seeing people connect and reach out to strangers, neighbors, coworkers, and you also had to kind of be creative about what you would talk about. And yeah, although people really enjoyed my classes, I think this happens to all people. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I was kind of going through a life change. And I just said, what's next? And it said, build a game. And so I'm not really somebody who plays a lot of games. And I just started working on building this game, and different people came along, and that's how Over Coffee came about. And I think what else should I tell you?
That's a good start. I think that's a good start. Yeah, I actually met Gena. My wife is a barista at one of the coffee shops, the Boomtown Coffee Shop in Houston. And Gena told her about the game, and I mean, it's called Over Coffee, so we definitely had to meet for sure.
It was funny because Caitlin, she said, it's called Over Coffee? I'm like, yes. She's like, you have to meet my husband. I'm like, okay.
That's awesome. Cool. Can you talk a little bit about how that game works?
Yeah. So let's say you're playing with a group of 4 people. So one person we'll call the host, and that person, they draw the topic card, and each topic card has 4 subtopics. And what's interesting about these topic cards, I mean, they go from mental health to God and spirituality, creativity, music, odd things about you, touchy, all those topics that I personally think are pretty fun to talk about, but we almost never, ever, ever talk about it, even with our really good friends. And so that person, the host, will share a personal statement based off of one of those subtopics. And then everybody else will draw 3 verb cards. And these are the top 100 verbs used in English. And those verb cards, you try to create a follow-up question. And what I like about the verb cards is you might think of something a little different because of the verbs that you have. And then the fact that you have to ask a follow-up question, you can't just say, oh, I really feel for you. I mean, you really have to be creative. And so when they ask that question, the host will answer it, and then the next person will go, and it creates a deeper sustained conversation, which really, in my opinion, is I think it's missing in our society and really important. And especially these topics, like let's just take climate change. I've had a few people that I played with, and when I heard their answer, I was like, oh my God, more people need to hear your answer to this. And then other people to ask questions.
Awesome. Yeah, I've played it. I think I've played it 3 times now in a few weeks. So
Yeah,
I've been having fun.
What did you think about the game?
Yeah, I think it's really, really interesting. I think, like you said, I think the verbs really facilitate having to think carefully about what the person's saying. I think in a lot of however rare these conversations can be, I think that when I have them, I'm usually thinking about my own answer to the same question,
Yeah.
which is really cool or it's cool that this game makes you think differently, because the host will answer a question, sometimes a difficult question, and I think when those questions come up in my own conversations, I'm trying to think of how to piece my answer together, or even try to like argue a point with somebody. And the game is really not about that. I think it's really about hearing what people have to say and then clarifying, or when you have some more curiosity about extra aspects of their answer. I think it's a really cool way to focus on those instead of focusing on yourself. It's kind of like taking away the selfish part of some of these kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've played it a lot now. I've had a lot of fun. You had an event the other day, so I got to play it with strangers for the first time, and I think that was a really cool experience.
What kind of surprised you when you were? I think you played with Harriet and
Yes.
Yvonne.
Yes.
And I don't actually know them really well, but was there something that they said? Because I always feel when I play the game, I really leave thinking about other people's answers and how I want to apply that to my own life, or how much I can relate to that. And I didn't know that about them, which it really is something about me too. Yeah. And I was curious if something like that happened.
Yeah, I think for me, it was definitely the relating on more things than I expected to. I think, we were talking about this before we hit record, but there's a lot of divisiveness and a lot of wild ideas out there that I think when I see them like online or on the news, that I think I get a little cynical about everybody that I don't know, I guess. So I think we were relating on a lot of things that I was not expecting to relate on. And I think that's my own failing, maybe being judgmental, I guess.
No, I think it happens to all of us because we're so much in our own head and in our own world, and we are scared to talk about these topics, and we often feel like we have to defend ourselves. So again, like what I like about the structure that's so great is that there are these follow-up questions, and when you hear people's answers to those follow-up questions, it makes total sense. And you're like, oh, okay, I totally get that. And then you start to build this common ground is what I think.
Yeah. And I think also, I think with the past pandemic year, I think I've had a really small circle of people that I'm talking to on the regular. So being able to, that was one of the, I can't even think about the last time I met a new person.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really met a new person.
And got to know them.
Yeah, a little bit at least for that. And even it's really interesting because I think I know some of the topics we talked about. I don't know the answers that some of my close friends would have for those topics, which is like we're kind of skipping the friend pleasantries and going into these topics, which is, felt really meaningful to me. So
I've always kind of, when I play, I always have this deep sense of belonging at the end of it. Like, oh, I really feel really related.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's an awesome game.
Thank you. Me too.
I know you've been working on it for a long time now.
7 years.
Yeah. How is that? I guess, is there anything unexpected you ran into as far as the whole process of designing it or publishing it?
Yeah, what's interesting is I actually created the whole game bilingual because I was really, and it started off very different. I think we've probably done multiple prototypes, but the game that we have now, I actually do have the bilingual version, which I only produced about 100 copies, which was Spanish and English, and we have played it with people who didn't speak a lot of English, and they actually improved their English as they played, as well as people who have studied Spanish and they improved their Spanish. But what really called to me was the sense of belonging and connection. And so eventually I thought, okay, you know what? The language is getting in the way for the moment, so we're going to take that out. And now we just have it all in English. And eventually I'll come back and do the bilingual version. One of the hard things, I've never done this before. So I had to learn how to. I started off with some people who really played games, and we worked together for a while. And then we stopped working together. And then I found somebody who was in marketing because we had to work on the illustrations. And that went so far, which was really great. And then I found the artist, but there was always, like, for example, the illustrations got done in Photoshop and you have to have them done in Illustrator. And what's so interesting, so when I don't work with either one of those, but one company, you can get charged thousands of dollars to change those over to Illustrator. And finally, a one woman I was working with, she's like, we can just send these to India and they'll do every single one of your illustrations for $300. And they did them over the weekend. They're the best job I've ever seen. I was like, holy cow. So I'm really happy about that. And then the box, I didn't know how to produce the box. So that took a little bit. And I think it's just, believing. And I'm not sure what I say to myself, but I just trust that things are going to work out. And I'm just going to keep moving forward until I'm like, okay, I can't do this anymore. But either way, I'm going to be proud. Did that answer your question?
I think so. I think I really relate with all of that. I at Many Worlds, there's two of us. And then Dean and Jack are our roasting team. But as far as the making the boxes and designing the packaging and all of that, we have some experience, but a lot of it is being scrappy or just being vulnerable to ask, hey, how do we do this to somebody who's done it or all that stuff. So I think I would definitely relate with that whole direction of
and I think right now I'm at a different stage. So now for a while there, I was learning how to mass produce my game. And I mean, I've only produced, this is my first batch, which is 500 copies. So now I'm at a new stage of marketing and getting the word out. And what I'm really interested is that people play the game. And of course that would lead to other things. But so that's going to be a whole nother area that I have to learn about.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. Thanks. Sometimes I'm very excited about it, and sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, it's really a long shot.
Yeah. I think weirdly, marketing, and you were talking about just posting on social media. I think a lot of people are natural at it to the point where I think the people that aren't so natural at it don't consider it a learned skill for some reason. But I think it can be considered a learned skill. Even myself, I don't feel that confident on camera or recording my voice for a podcast, but I think we're trying to
You sound pretty good right now.
Oh, thank you. We're just
You sound like a professional.
we're kind of forcing it on ourselves, I think, and I think maybe I'm a little more cynical than you because I think the way how you said if I keep trying, things are going to work out. I think for me, it's I think I'm more this is going to suck. Let's do it. This is going to suck.
My gosh.
Let's do it. After we record this, I'm not going to like it. Let's do it. So maybe I need to look longer term and think, oh, one day it'll be really good or I'll be proud of it.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, I think the most important thing is to start. And that's one thing I've learned is whatever you're working on, the main thing is just start. And as soon as you start, you'll know what the next step. I mean, it really does unfold naturally. And it's so surprising how just the right people will show, especially when you relax into it and I recommend go do some fun things. So you feel like you're happy and all that. And then the right people seem to walk in at the right time.
Oh yeah.
I know that sounds a little woo-y.
Well,
a little crazy.
But there's so many people out there that
That's how it works.
I don't think it has to be that wooey to be relatively true. Have you ever heard this thing called the creative gap?
No.
Okay, I think there's a quote by Ira Glass, the NPR guy.
Ooh, I like that guy.
Yeah, and I think he, I don't know the quote by heart or anything, but he has this concept of the creative gap where whatever creative thing you do, whether it's designing games or what, um, there's usually this gap between what you think or what you envision or what you really like from other people, or when you compare yourself, especially when you're new to it, you have this gap between what you can produce or what you can create, and there's a gap between that and what you want or what you
Like what you envision.
or what you see in other people that you're comparing yourself to, and I'm like, I'm not there, or that person seems so far away as far as their skill level or whatever, success, whatever.
I think I used to do more comparison, but
Yeah.
I guess in my older years I don't as much.
Yeah.
I've learned not to do that and really practice appreciating like where I am. And I mean, it doesn't mean I don't do it. Don't get me wrong, but yeah.
Well, I think his is more there's a part two to that, in that he's suggesting that everyone felt that. Everyone that you are seeing as like above yourself or more successful or whatever, they had a gap with whoever they were inspired by. And I think he's trying to suggest that that taste you have in those things that you like from other people or that you envision, that taste is good. It's even if it's beyond your current ability.
Yeah.
Because that taste is you, and it's like true, and what you you can't lie to yourself about what you want or what you think is good. I mean, you can like evolve your taste, obviously, but
No, I like it.
I think that's the
good.
concept that he's trying to share. So
Yeah,
anyway, that made me think about.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's always good to remember that.
Yeah. Talking about over coffee some more. Do you have any stories about like a really, really great, memorable play of the game or?
Let me think here. You know, I don't necessarily. I mean, there's different ones, right? I think the thing that surprised is. Well, I'm thinking, for example, last Saturday night, my friend was talking about her dad, and she pulled touchy subjects, and so she's Iranian and had come here in the 80s and was talking about how she experienced racism, but it was also mixed with her dad's depression. And so my dad dealt with depression, and I've also dealt with depression myself, and so I just really was surprised. Like, we've never talked about that, and we kind of stopped right there. Like, we ended the night. So it left me wanting to ask more.
Yeah.
But I know what actually really surprised me. Okay, now I remember. I mean, there are many, but one time I was playing with 12 people, women.
12 people. Yeah.
12, which is and so you usually do the host and then 3 follow up, and then the next person would be the host in that case. And, as somebody, I'm a mother of 2, and when you have kids, it's like all of a sudden you just go into this twilight zone. Like, you're no longer on your own schedule. You are, you think you're building a career, but life is totally different. And looking back, I think I had probably postpartum depression, but, people don't talk about it. And one woman drew the mental health card, and this woman, she is like totally put together. You would never think that she has ever had to deal with anything. And she talked about how she's Indian. She talked about how she went through anxiety and depression after having her first child. And then another person in the group also chimed up and said, I also had postpartum depression, which made me think, wow, that's so cool that people are talking about that, because then you feel more at ease, like to ask for help, and you don't feel like something's wrong with you or you have to hide it or be ashamed. And so that really surprised me to see that happen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We on Saturday we pulled the same touchy subjects card. And I pulled it. And
what did you say?
I talked about racism as well.
Huh.
And I think I think this year the past couple of years, I think racism is like a really touchy subject, or really in the popular zeitgeist, I guess, or in the news cycle, or
Yeah,
all
it's
that.
important.
For sure. I think maybe I realized for myself that sometimes I talk about racism differently with my different groups that I'm part of.
Yeah.
So I think like I talk about it differently with um, my family versus my group of friends versus my friends of color. And I think it was interesting because I think the four of us. I think Yvonne is Chinese.
Yeah, she is.
Okay. And then I think Harriet is white.
Yeah, she is. She
I don't
is.
know what kind of
And then
European
the
or
other thing, I
American.
mean, Harriet's like, I think she's maybe in her 70s,
Mm-hmm.
where like
Yeah.
Yvonne might have been in her late 40s or 50s. And then
Okay.
you're what? Like,
I'm 27.
you're 27?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And my wife is white. So that was the group of us, the four of us. So I think it was interesting because here I am answering the question. I think words are coming out of my mouth that I maybe don't usually say in that kind of company.
What did you say? I'm so
Oh,
curious
sure.
now.
Yeah. Well, I think a big thing. What do we talk about? Do you remember what's on the card exactly? Is it about like how
Have you ever, I think it's,
how experienced racism?
have you ever experienced racism?
Gotcha. Yes. I think there's I didn't really answer the question that much. I told them that I kind of discussed the responsibility I feel when someone asks that question. Because I
Yeah.
think like I am a Filipino American. I've never been like mugged for my race. I've never been I have not been called that many slurs, and the slurs I have been called um, I don't know. I personally have not felt that much fear for myself based on
Yeah.
my race. I've experienced plenty of discrimination, but I think the key thing I guess I'm trying to get to is um, in the past, I think I've chimed up in conversations about race, saying some stuff like, "Oh, it's not that bad," or "It's not that bad for me," or whatever. And I think I've grown a bit in the past few years, feeling that that's kind of irresponsible to say. And I think the thing I said on Saturday was, racists don't need my help. Like they don't need me to help with the gaslighting or
Oh,
fudge
yeah.
their statistics or whatever. Like I don't need to be a racist person's anecdote to be like, oh, my friend Chris has never been beaten up for it. Because I think I've learned that, um, you know, like discrimination and other like microaggressions aside, which I think like I've learned plenty about. Oh, I think I let a lot of things slide, but also really coming to terms with, even if I haven't been beaten up for racism, that doesn't mean I need to, advertise that, especially in the face of other people experiencing that plenty on the day to day. And I think that's where the conversation steered. So,
Yeah. Well, even the discrimination, right? Like even the microaggressions, they all add up pretty quickly.
For sure. And
it takes a toll.
Yeah, and I think I also, when I was younger, I think I felt like I think I used to think it was a virtue to like bear it or like just have some grit.
Uh-huh.
I think my parents, I don't think as plainly or bluntly as this. I think um, you know, they faced a lot, but also I think when we moved here, my parents immigrated to America. And I think um, there was this concept to like, if you have proximity to whiteness or like, don't have an accent, don't, don't ruffle feathers.
Don't be different.
Yeah, don't be different. We're going to be fine. And I think as a kid, I think, I don't think they said that to be harmful. I think it's for our survival and for our safety. Now that I'm grown up and can I've survived. So I think now I feel like I need to walk back some of those previous learnings I had about how to think about race or how to think about being different.
Yeah. So I have one other question.
Sure.
So when you answered that question, the follow-up question was a particular follow-up question that was stuck with you and really surprised you. And
let's see. I need to think about what they asked. I think someone asked, because my answer was very much looking to my past. I think someone asked me if I could go to the past and talk to myself back then. What would I tell myself, or what would I tell myself to change? And part of me thinks well, I think the main thing is that concept you have in your head about fitting in to be safe. I think you as a kid, you are weighting it too much. You learned your lesson too much, I think. I think you can get away with arguing more and standing up for yourself and against racism in any form. And you're going to not endanger yourself, and you'll gain a lot more pride and self-esteem, and not only selfishly, hopefully you can help somebody.
Yeah, I think when you speak what's there for you, just like you said, you gain your own self-confidence and you feel good about that. But you also, there's an expression I love that I heard a friend say once. You're either going to jiggle the jello, like imagine the world is jello. Okay. So you're either going to jiggle the jello or you're not. Meaning what you say jiggles the jello. So, and I think that's, it impacts and it flows through to other people. Cool. Thanks.
Cool. Yes. Yeah. So I think just like your game, pushing me to talk about things I feel like I don't usually talk about. It's the same for this podcast. I don't think I would have assumed like, let's talk to Gena about, I was kind of more going to ask you questions about, what was it like to design it or more of the minutiae of that. But here we are talking about racism and all that stuff. But I think it's awesome. I think it's great.
Thanks.
I think it is a really, really cool system for sure, as far as facilitating those kinds of
I think it's a great thing, to be honest with the game. I mean, not only is it great to play with strangers, but also people But, you can play it outside, and I feel like it is a good thing to bring people back together and just converse and not be on our phones and, looking to Google for this or that. I mean, I really believe people need to be with people, and the most important people are the ones directly in front of you. And that can also be, and then when you build that common ground, like even at work, so even as like, I think of it as possibly being used like as an informal culture at work, although these are sometimes deep subjects and sometimes they're not, just knowing a little bit more about your coworkers also has you just feel happier working together and work better on solutions, creating solutions and stuff. So,
do you ever worry about some of the topics being too touchy or having like a fragile?
Yeah, a little bit. Sometimes I think, I should put some lighter topics in there. But at the same time, they're kind of fun. Like when people actually do them. Yeah. It's probably not a game I would play every day. I don't want to have these topics every day. But when I do play it, I'm like, oh, that was cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so Andrew and I do play lots of games.
Yeah. Tell me.
So I think I think we do talk about games and coffee, bringing people together. Sometimes they fail at that. I think sometimes there are games that you can really get into the game and maybe lose some of the connection with the people around the table. I think one reason we really like tabletop games, and the reason we're not focusing on like video games, which both of us enjoy as well. I think with tabletop games, there's way less of a barrier because you are all sitting at the same table,
Yeah.
and have to interact. But I think even then, it is still like a distraction to where, sometimes it can not really bring you that much closer with the people around. Coffee can be the same way. We love sharing coffee and making a big pot of coffee to share with everybody. Sometimes, though, and this is okay, but sometimes coffee is just like an energy source or like a thing to do or whatever. So I think just anything that can bring people together, and then if you add coffee plus the over coffee game, facilitate some more, or even like you have a game night which is like a bunch of strategy games, but in the middle you take a break and answer some over coffee questions. I think
let me just tell you this. First of all, the illustrations on your packaging is well worth just buying the coffee. I was like, these are so cool. I'd like to contact you guys to help me on another game. Okay. But I also think, especially as the workforce goes remotely, I mean, you're right. Coffee really connects all of us in a different way. Mm-hmm. And, one thing when I think about coffee is I like to say it's meeting somebody. When you meet someone with no agenda, that's the best. So I'm not trying to date them or get something from them or convince them or something, which all those things are important. But when I just meet somebody, like I said, with no agenda, and that's kind of why I called it Over Coffee. So, I think it's a good match.
Yeah. I think the way we think about coffee too is like, if there is an agenda, where we just hope that the coffee
it better be good.
It better be good. I think we feel some kind of responsibility as far as, if the coffee is there for your first date or for your, nighttime of studying for like the most important exam of your life or whatever, there's a weird sense of responsibility that it should be good. It should like not be the part of your situation that, it should be like a positive part of your situation. Even the things like sharing the story behind the coffees, I don't know, because it's part of so many situations and situations where there's no agenda, like you saying that that's the best, which is, I think it's awesome, because like you're saying that some of your best conversations are there and there's often coffee there. I think we're trying not to take it lightly that coffee's there. I think we're trying to be like, hey, if this is part of important days of people's lives, let's make it good and respect it and stuff. So, cool.
Thank you.
I've been doing lots of rambling, but
no, this is great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think we can call it there. I think.
Can I just say, if you guys want to order a game?
I was going to say, I would love to, yeah, please do all your pitches.
Well, let me just tell you real quick. So if you are interested in ordering a game, I just offer it online on my website, which is overcoffeegames.com.
All right, overcoffeegames.com. You guys can pick it up there. Gena, thank you so much for talking with me.
Oh, thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. I'm probably going to play this game many, many more times. It's definitely a different kind of game than most of the stuff we talk about at Many Worlds, but I think it's an important one. I think y'all should check it out. Overcoffeegames.com. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.